Good morning, Trojan families. As we continue to navigate the COVID-19 pandemic, I felt it was time to provide another status update and informational release regarding the current realities and situational analysis of COVID cases and community spread in our school district. Today, I am reaching out asking for all of your help to slow the spread of COVID-19 in our community so we can meet our goal and avoid any changes to our on-campus learning model here in Pleasantville. Nationwide, across the state of Iowa, and even here in Marion and Warren counties, community spread is on the rise. The bottom line is that right now, more and more people are testing positive for COVID-19 and going into mandatory quarantine and isolation. As your superintendent, one of the many concerns I have right now is having enough healthy teachers and school staff to continue our daily school operations. Without enough teachers in classrooms, bus drivers running routes, food service staff preparing and serving meals, and custodians cleaning and disinfecting our buildings, we may be forced to close the doors to our classrooms, school buildings, or even the entire school district. To be clear, this is not at all the direction we want to head as a school district, and we will continue to be here and serve students in our community on campus full-time as long as we can do it and do it safely. Again, I am asking for your help to slow the spread of COVID-19 so we can meet the district's goal to provide educational services on campus and avoid any changes to our on-campus learning model. For now, we will continue to monitor student and staff attendance and COVID positivity rates in our school district extremely close. And we will continue to work with officials from public health as well as the Iowa Department of Education to help inform our decisions. Please consider this message a plea for all members of our community to do our part in slowing down the spread of COVID-19. The best mitigation strategies we know of continue to be frequently washing hands with soap and warm water, the use of hand sanitizer when it's not possible to wash your hands, avoiding touching eyes, nose, and mouth, staying home if you're sick, avoiding close contact with people who are sick, limiting social gatherings and staying at least 6 foot from others, covering your mouth and nose with a mask or face covering when around others. And we know the masks are controversial, but we are operating under the best information we've been provided, and that is that the mask helps protect others if you are sick and just don't happen to know it or realize it. Additionally, please stay alert and be responsive to the symptoms of COVID-19. Specifically, we would suggest you be alert for loss of ability to taste or smell, running a high fever, a new cough, or shortness of breath. At this time, let's take a look at what possible learning model changes could look like if the health and safety numbers surrounding the pandemic continue to trend negatively in our school district and in our county. The first thing I would call your attention to are the pillars of our pandemic plans. These pillars were established last summer while we planned for our school district's response to the pandemic. I want to remind everyone viewing this that the safety of our students and staff has been and will continue to be the primary concern throughout the course of the pandemic. The rest of these priorities remain unchanged since our initial release in July. As many of you are aware, Iowa Governor Kim Reynolds provided an update and new proclamation on the pandemic at 6 p.m. on Monday. There was not a lot of new news that applied to pre-K through 12th grade schools in her release. However, there are a few that primarily focus on activities and athletics. Youth sports and activities, including junior high, are suspended until at least December 10th. High school sports and activities will have a limitation of 2 spectators per participant, and everyone in the stands or in the audience is going to be required to wear a mask or face covering. Also, a reminder that if we would happen to end up in a 100% virtual learning model, then all school activities and athletics would be suspended. The current reality in our school district is that we have 1 employee who is currently COVID positive and 1 student in preschool through 12th grades who is known to be COVID positive. We are tracking an additional 33 students and 1 staff member who are on our radar for possible COVID symptoms or quarantine. This slide is a screenshot of our COVID dashboard that shows student absences. As you can see from this graph, our highest percentage of student absences was at 8.4% in the junior high on November 5th. The majority of the time, we average around 4 to 5% absentee rate on any given day, which would also be fairly representative of our data in a non-COVID or a typical school year. Anytime student or staff absenteeism reaches 10% or higher, the Department of Public Health is consulted and intervention steps are taken to avoid further spread of illness at that time. This slide outlines a hypothetical list of issues that could possibly cause a change to our on-campus learning model here in Pleasantville. So far, we have been able to avoid most issues in the areas marked with a green check mark next to them. As I mentioned earlier, the one area that continues to concern me is our ability to have enough healthy staff to remain operational and functional as a school district. To be clear, at this time we are not yet recommending a change in our learning model, but we do want to provide a refresher for families in the next few slides just in case it becomes necessary to make a shift or change in learning model and go with either the hybrid or virtual learning model options. In the hybrid learning model, 50% of the students attend class on a given day, while the other 50% of the students in a class join the class virtually from home. Students are placed into two groups, an A group and a B group, and a rotating schedule is used to reduce the number of students on campus on any given day. This provides more opportunity to expand physical distancing among students and staff. In Pleasantville, the hybrid model would most likely be considered if the district were concerned about student absenteeism rates, if we had to make the change to hybrid at this point in time. We would not use the same hybrid schedule as we used earlier this school year. Our new hybrid model would include no school at all for students on Mondays so that staff can plan and prepare lessons for the hybrid model. Students in A group would be on-campus learners on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, while students in B group would be on-campus learners on Thursdays and Fridays. If the decision were made to switch and go with the hybrid model, we would give families and staff as much prior notice as possible and announce that decision to switch to the hybrid mode for a minimum of a 2-week time period. During those 2 weeks, we would continue to monitor the situation and update everyone if the hybrid model would continue past those 2 weeks, or if we would change back to on-campus learning or even go the other direction and switch to 100% virtual learning. We will keep staff and families updated either way. The decision to temporarily go with or apply to use 100% virtual learning full-time or long-term would be considered because of an overwhelming amount of staff absenteeism or a disruption to the operations of the school district. As an example, the most likely areas that could be negatively impacted in this way could be supply chain disruption in the areas of food service or custodial maintenance. I know some patrons of our community have asked why we would skip over the hybrid model and consider going 100% virtual. My response to that is that the hybrid schedule doesn't do anything to help solve staffing issues and does not improve our ability to stay operational due to a large staff outage. If a change in our learning model becomes necessary, we would prefer to use the hybrid model as the next best option so that students would be on-campus learners at least 50% of the time. To be clear, the 100% virtual option would be our last resort unless it became clear that we were unsafe or not able to be fully operational. As I've alluded to multiple times during this presentation, the lack of substitute staff is a main reason I worry right now about our ability to continue with on-campus learning. If you are interested or have been thinking about becoming a substitute staff member, particularly substitute teacher, I would tell you now is the time. We need you. If you are interested, please consider contacting our Human Resources Director, Linda Russell. As I start to wrap up this presentation, here are some additional pieces of information related to school and the pandemic. Students should be taking their electronic devices and necessary school materials home with them each night. Any student or family who wants to voluntarily opt their child into 100% virtual learning may do so at any point and commit for an extended time period. Our Phase 2 of 100% virtual runs up through November 27th, with Phase 3 starting November 30th and finishing on January 22nd. The district still has a number of Verizon wireless Wi-Fi hotspots available for students who need them at no cost. Please contact our IT Director, Angie Graham, for details and to request one of those if you'd like one. On top of all this, we know the upcoming holiday season is an area of concern. And again, just want to stress for everyone to be responsible with personal choices and gatherings. So to wrap up and make it clear, at this time, we remain committed to providing on-campus learning full-time for students and staff, but we are at a real crossroads here in Pleasantville. Please consider following the health and safety guidelines I mentioned earlier in this presentation and doing your part to help stop the spread of COVID. I hope you'll also please consider becoming a substitute employee for the school district to help us through this difficult time if you're able and willing. As a community, I couldn't be more proud and appreciative of the way everyone has been flexible and understanding throughout the pandemic, and I need to ask for that flexibility and understanding to continue. Our priority is to stay in our on-campus learning model as long as we can do it safely. And if we have to make a change in our learning model, we are prepared and ready to do so if it comes to it. Finally, I would like to say thank you for your partnership in keeping our students and staff healthy so we may continue our operations as a school district. We need everyone's help to stop the spread of COVID-19, and I just want to say thank you and go Trojans.